What the hell is this? Adrian Cole's voice cracked the spotless kitchen. He stood in the doorway, suit jacket open, tie loose, eyes locked on the scene by the stove. Zuri Bennett didn't flinch. She stirred the pot, then chopped carrots in quick, even strokes. On her back, anchored in a blue and gold African wrap, 8-month-old Maya breathed slow and easy. One tiny hand patted the cloth. No crying. No arching away. Just calm. This is primitive, Adrian said, stepping closer. You strapped my daughter to your back like cargo. It's an African wrap, Zuri said. It keeps her regulated. She's eating and sleeping for the first time in months. She's not a project to regulate. She's my child. He tapped the thick white binder on the counter. My late wife wrote the protocols. None of this is in the manual. Mrs. Lang paused at the threshold with a bag of groceries. She saw Maya's relaxed face, then Adrian's, and set the bag down slowly. Mr. Cole, Zuri said, turning so he could see Maya's steady eyes, if we pull her out while you're upset, she'll spiral. My house. My rules, Adrian said. Untie her. Now. Zuri loosened the knot with practiced hands and lifted Maya forward. The baby lasted 2 seconds between bodies, then the whimper rose, thin at first, before exploding into a full, scraping scream. Give her to me, Adrian said. Zuri placed Maya against his chest. He held exactly like the manual said, upright, neutral sway, 2 fingers under the chin. Maya arched away, face red, fists beating the air. The scream tore through the marble and glass. Enough, Adrian said without looking away. Pack your things. You're done here. Zuri's jaw set. Understood. She glanced once at Maya and walked out, back straight, steps even. The spoon in the pot tapped the rim. The house resumed its expensive silence, except for the baby screaming in her father's arms. 3 months earlier, on Detroit's east side, the only thing that screamed was a kettle that had boiled dry. Past due notices fanned across a chip table. The fluorescent light flickered. Zuri punched numbers into a cheap calculator and kept getting the same answer, not enough. Aunt Clara leaned in the doorway, robe cinched twice, chemo scarf crooked over one ear. Oncologist wants a new round, she said. Insurance won't touch it. How much? 15,000. The number dropped like a brick. Malik's spring tuition was due in 2 weeks. Rent was 3 months late. The fridge held 3 eggs and half a loaf of bread. We'll figure it out, Zuri said. Her voice gave away the lie. Her phone rang. Unknown Seattle number. Ms. Bennett. A crisp voice. This is Mrs. Lang. I manage a private household. Your application from the Children's Center, strong references. We need live-in care for an 8-month-old. 4,000 a month plus room and board. Start immediately. 4,000. More than 3 months of diner shifts. Enough for chemo and tuition. Enough for groceries that weren't noodles. I'm interested, Zuri said, hand shaking. That night, Malik drove up from campus. They sat on Aunt Clara's bed, the room smelling like lavender and plastic hospital tape. You have to go, Aunt Clara said, squeezing Zuri's fingers. We prayed for a door. It opened. I can take a semester off, Malik said. No, Zuri said. You're 6 months from graduating. She packed at dawn. 2 pairs of jeans. 3 tops. Sneakers. At the closet shelf, she stopped. The wrap. Blues and golds, soft as breath. Her grandmother had carried her mother in it. Her mother had carried Zuri and Malik. She pressed the cloth to her chest and heard the echo she always heard. Carry them close. Let them hear your heart. She laid the wrap in the suitcase like glass. At the Greyhound station, Diesel ate the air. Zuri hugged Aunt Clara carefully and felt bones through cotton. Malik held her too long, then forced himself to let go. Call every day, he said. Every day, she promised. The bus pulled out. Block by block, the city thinned. Zuri kept her palm on the suitcase, thumb tracing the edge of the folded wrap inside. 48 hours later, a taxi slid through iron gates taller than their apartment building. The mansion didn't sit on the cliff, it leaned over it, glass and steel jutting over gray water. Inside, everything gleamed, But. Chrome. Footsteps sounded like gavel strikes. 7 nannies in 8 months, Mrs. Lang said as they climbed a floating staircase. Mr. Cole expects precision. The nursery was perfect and wrong. Monitors blinked. Imported furniture. Toys lined up by age band. In the center, a designer crib. Inside, Maya, face red, lungs working hard. The cry wasn't hungry. It was "Where is my person?" Zuri lifted Maya and began to hum, small and low. The cry sharpened first, then frayed, then softened into threads. Not peace. Not yet. But closer. Later, in the office with a wall of water and sky, Adrian turned from the window. Tailored. Eyes like a closed door. "Our schedule is precise," he said, passing her the binder. "Feedings, naps, activities, lighting. You will not improvise." "I understand," Zuri said. She meant it. "Learn the rules before you break them." For 72 hours she obeyed. Feed on the minute. Put down awake. Don't pick up if fussing. White noise at 45 decibels. Temperature at 70. Maya screamed. Slept in scraps. Ate just enough to worry a doctor. On the 4th night, Zuri whispered to Malik over video. "I'm doing everything right. It isn't working." "Maybe the problem is what you're not allowed to do," he said. The next morning, Dr. Patel checked Maya. Gentle hands. Direct words. Weight gain minimal. Sleep erratic. Milestones concerning. He looked at the binder, then at Adrian. "She needs attachment, not just care." After he left, the house went quiet except for the crying. Zuri stood in the nursery and hummed her mother's lullaby with the slow sway. Maya's fists loosened. The cry thinned. Zuri stopped. The cry surged. She started again. The cry eased. At noon, Zuri opened her drawer, stared at the wrap, and chose. She listened for steps. None. She tied high and tight, airway clear, legs M-shaped, chin kissable. Maya pressed her cheek to Zuri and released a long, shuddering exhale. "There we go," Zuri whispered. "You're safe." By dinner, Maya had taken 8 ounces without a fight and dozed against the rhythm of Zuri's walk. By evening, she laughed for the first time. Mrs. Lang stopped in the doorway and forgot to be stern. "How?" "Close," Zuri said. She needed close. She hid the wrap under a cardigan when crossing cameras. She followed the manual when Adrian hovered. She logged every feed and nap in the app he'd installed. And in the spaces between, she carried the child. 3 weeks later, Dr. Patel's charts bent upward. Weight, sleep, engagement. The house sounded different. That was the week Adrian's board called an emergency meeting about the discrimination suit and the stock slide. He came home early, needing one thing he could control. He turned into the kitchen and saw the thing he couldn't. "What the hell is this?" Maya slept against Zuri's back, hand on the gold thread that had survived 3 generations. "Dinner's almost ready," Zuri said. "Untie her," Adrian said. The kettle clicked off. Somewhere, a camera light blinked red. Outside, the water kept moving. Inside, everything broke. The taxi stopped at the top of the hill. Through the window, Zuri saw steel and glass jutting out over gray water. Adrian Cole's mansion didn't look like a home. It looked like a fortress. A statement. The iron gates closed behind them. She stepped out with her suitcase, hugging her coat against the Seattle drizzle. The air smelled like salt and money. Mrs. Lang was waiting at the door, silver hair pinned back, navy suit sharp enough to cut. Her eyes scanned Zuri from shoes to collar. "Ms. Bennett, I trust your trip was tolerable." "Yes, ma'am." "Leave your bag. Staff will take it." Inside, the house gleamed. Marble floors. Chrome fixtures. White walls covered in abstract art. Every step echoed like a gavel hit. Zuri felt smaller with each hallway. The previous nannies found this environment challenging, Mrs. Lang said, leading her up a floating staircase. 7 in 8 months. Mr. Cole demands precision. 7. The number made Zuri's stomach tighten. She forced herself to nod. They stopped at a door. "Mr. Cole will see you now." The office stretched across the cliff. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Puget Sound. Adrian Cole stood with his back to her, phone pressed to his ear. Dark suit. Shoulders squared. When he turned, his expression was carved in stone. "Ms. Bennett," he said, voice clipped. His handshake was firm, short. No warmth. "You understand the requirements?" "Yes, sir." He slid a thick binder across the desk. "My late wife designed these protocols. Feeding every 4 hours. Naps at exact intervals. Developmental activities according to schedule. No improvisation." Zuri ran a hand over the binder. "I understand." Adrian's eyes flickered, just once, at the word. "Good. The nursery is upstairs. Mrs. Lang will show you." Dismissed just like that. The nursery looked like a showroom. Imported crib. Designer toys stacked by developmental stage. Monitors blinking data in real time. Everything perfect, except the baby inside. Maya lay on her back, fists clenched, face red. The cry wasn't hungry. It was desperate. Zuri lifted her gently. The baby wailed harder, body stiff, refusing comfort. "She's been like this since Mrs. Cole passed," Mrs. Lang said quietly. "Doctors say nothing's wrong. She doesn't bond. Won't eat much. Won't sleep more than an hour. Mr. Cole is exhausted." Zuri cradled Maya tighter, rocking instinctively. The baby's screams scraped the walls. No softening. Just raw grief packed in a tiny body. Zuri whispered anyway. "It's okay. I've got you." She knew the words meant nothing yet. But maybe if she said them enough, one day they would. That night, in her small guest room, Zuri unpacked her battered suitcase. Jeans. Blouses. The wrap. She laid it on the bed. Blues and golds caught the lamplight, fabric soft from generations of use. She touched the edge, then folded it back into the drawer. Not yet. Not here. She sat on the edge of the bed and video called Detroit. Aunt Clara answered, scarf tied tight over her chemo-paled face. Malik leaned into the frame. "How's it look?" Aunt Clara asked. "Big," Zuri said. "Cold." "And the baby?" "Crying. All the time." She tried to smile. "But I'll figure it out." "You always do," Malik said. "Just don't lose yourself in that house." Zuri nodded, though her chest felt heavy. She'd promised to follow the protocols. But holding Maya tonight, hearing that cry echo through marble and glass, she wondered how long a baby could survive by rules alone. Outside, the waves hit the cliff. Inside, silence pressed against every wall. The first 72 hours nearly broke her. Zuri followed the binder like scripture. Feedings measured down to the ounce. Naps scheduled on the day. White noise at exactly 45 decibels. Temperature fixed at 70 degrees. She logged everything into the tracking app Adrian demanded. And still Maya screamed. Morning, night, in between, her face red, her tiny fists punching air. She sucked down just enough formula to keep going, then twisted away, refusing more. Sleep came in fragments, never longer than 30 minutes. Zuri rocked, hummed, paced. None of it was in the manual, so she did it in secret when the cameras couldn't catch her. But nothing lasted. The baby cried until her own throat was raw. By the third night, Zuri was running on 2 hours of sleep. She sat on the nursery floor, back against the crib, Maya pressed against her chest. The child wailed, every sob a knife. Mrs. Lang stepped in, arms crossed. For once, her tone carried pity. "She's been like this for 8 months, she said. Since Mrs. Cole passed." Zuri looked up, eyes burning. "There has to be something that works." Mrs. Lang only shook her head. The next morning, Dr. Patel arrived for a scheduled check. Silver-haired, calm, he moved with the quiet efficiency of someone used to anxious parents. He checked Maya's weight, reflexes, breathing. The frown lines deepened. "Minimal gain," he said. "Sleep erratic. Developmental milestones behind." Adrian stood at the window, arms folded. "We followed the protocols precisely. My wife researched them for months." "With respect," Dr. Patel replied, closing the chart, "your wife was a first-time mother, under stress. These methods aren't addressing what Maya needs." "Then tell me what will," Adrian snapped. His voice was sharp enough to cut glass. She needs attachment, Dr. Patel said evenly. Not just care. A baby has to feel secure with someone before she can thrive. Adrian's jaw tightened. He didn't answer. Zuri cradled Maya tighter, her own heart pounding. She wanted to say, I know what she needs. She wanted to say, let me try my way. But Adrian's glare silenced her. Dr. Patel gave her a small look, something between sympathy and warning. Then he packed up and left. That night, in her room, Zuri video called Malik. Her voice was low so the baby monitor wouldn't pick it up. I don't understand, she whispered. I'm doing everything right. Every schedule, every detail. But she screams like she's in pain. On the screen, Malik frowned. Maybe the problem isn't what you're doing. Maybe it's what you're not allowed to do. Zuri closed her eyes. The drawer across the room seemed to hum. Inside, the wrap waited. She thought of her mother's voice, soft and steady. Carry them close. Let them hear your heart. For the first time since she stepped into this mansion, Zuri wondered if the answer wasn't in the binder at all. By the fourth night, Zuri's hands shook from exhaustion. She had walked the nursery floor for hours, Maya crying against her shoulder, little body stiff as stone. The binder lay open on the dresser, useless, its neat charts mocking her with lines and numbers that didn't stop the screams. Zuri sat on the edge of the bed, rocking gently. Her eyes drifted to the dresser drawer. The wrap. She hesitated, listening. The mansion was quiet. Adrian was locked in his office. No footsteps in the hall, no voices. Just Maya's cries echoing through glass and marble. All right, baby girl, Zuri whispered. We're trying something else. She opened the drawer and pulled out the fabric. The colors glowed even in the dim light, blue and gold, soft from years of use. Her hands moved on instinct, knotting and tightening the way her mother had taught her. She slid Maya into the wrap, snug against her chest, chin kissable, airway clear. The baby's fists still clenched at first. Then, slowly, her tiny body loosened. The cries faltered. One shuddering breath. Then another. Then silence. Zuri froze. She barely breathed herself. Maya pressed her cheek to Zuri's heartbeat and let out a sigh that seemed to carry 8 months of tension. Her eyelids fluttered. Within minutes, she was asleep. Zuri's eyes filled. Relief hit so hard her knees trembled. She kissed the baby's soft hair. There we go. You're safe. You're loved. The next morning, Maya drank an entire bottle without turning away. Zuri almost laughed out loud at the sight of the baby's tiny hands gripping the bottle while she fed in the wrap. At nap time, Maya didn't fight. She slept. 2 hours straight. By evening, when Zuri hummed an old lullaby and swayed through the kitchen, Maya cooed, soft, sweet, a sound Zuri hadn't heard before. Not crying. Not fussing. Actual joy. Mrs. Lang stepped into the kitchen and stopped mid-stride. Her usual sternness cracked into surprise. How are you doing this? Zuri tightened her cardigan over the wrap, careful. She just needed to feel secure. The housekeeper stared at the baby's calm face, then at Zuri. For once, she had no answer. That night, Zuri video called Detroit. Aunt Clara sat propped up on pillows, chemo scarf in place. Malik leaned in, grinning. Look at her, Zuri said, turning the camera. Maya smiled at the screen, reaching tiny fingers toward it. Aunt Clara's eyes welled. That baby looks loved. Really loved. She's eating, sleeping, even laughing, Zuri said, pride spilling through her voice. It's like she's a different child. But when the call ended, Zuri sat alone in the guest room, staring at the folded cardigan covering the wrap. Relief mixed with fear. If Adrian ever saw. She shook her head, kissed Maya's forehead, and whispered, we'll keep this our secret. By week 2, the graphs started climbing. Zuri logged everything in the app Adrian required. Ounces finished. Naplings. Diaper counts. The trend lines bent up and stayed up. Weight checks with the smart scale ticked forward every other morning. Maya's eyes tracked faces. Her hands reached for rattles. She cooed when Zuri hummed. She dozed on the move and woke up smiling. Zuri kept the routine tight. She wrapped Maya high and firm in the bedroom, hid the knot under a loose cardigan, then stepped into the hall like nothing had changed. In front of cameras she sat in the glider, held bottles at the angle the binder liked, and gave the app its timestamps. When she crossed blind spots, she stood, swayed, and let the "t" sound do its work. Mrs. Lang noticed first. "You've done what 7 couldn't," she said one morning, watching Maya nap through a vacuum pass in the hallway. "She hasn't slept through noise since she was born." Zuri kept her voice even. "She's learning that people are safe." Mrs. Lang's eyes softened. "Or that you are." She hesitated. "Mr. Cole will ask how." "It's in the logs," Zuri said, non-committal. "Feeds, naps, play windows." Mrs. Lang gave the faintest smile. "You're careful." "Good." At lunch, Maya took 7 ounces without a fight. Zuri kept the bottle steady and rubbed tiny circles on the baby's palm. The little fingers curled, then relaxed. The swallow rhythm stayed smooth. When the bottle emptied, Maya sighed and nuzzled into the wrap. "Proud of you," Zuri whispered. "That's work." She burped Maya, logged the feed, and moved to the sink. The house's quiet felt different now. It wasn't empty. It was waiting. That afternoon, Dr. Patel's assistant called to confirm next week's check. Zuri asked for a weigh-in sooner. "She's trending up," Zuri said. "I'd like it documented." "Come by Thursday," the assistant said. "We'll put it on the chart." Zuri hung up and texted Aunt Clara a photo, Maya asleep, cheek pressed to blue and gold. She framed it tight so the knot didn't show. Aunt Clara replied with 3 words, "You did that." Malik chimed in, "Proud of you. Midterms too. We survive." Zuri pocketed the phone and took the stairs 2 at a time when Maya stirred. The baby woke, blinked, and reached for Zuri's face. The hand landed on her cheek and stayed there. No panic. No stuttered breath. Just a soft sound that wasn't crying. "Hi there," Zuri said, kissing her fingers. At 4, she set up a mat on the living room floor. Rolling practice. Grasp and release with soft blocks. A mirror for face tracking. Maya tolerated tummy time for the first time without protest. She pushed up on her forearms and grunted like a weightlifter. Zuri counted seconds out loud and cheered when the elbows locked. Maya looked up in surprise, then laughed at the noise. Mrs. Lang stopped in the doorway with a stack of linens. "That laugh," she said. "I haven't heard that laugh in this house." "Get used to it," Zuri said. "We'll need more of it." By 6, the kitchen smelled like garlic and chicken broth. Zuri stirred a pot and wore Maya on her back. The baby watched the steam with slow eyes and patted the wrap's edge. The rhythm of steps and spoon clinks was its own white noise. The side door clicked. Adrian's voice carried from the hall. He sounded tired and clipped, the way he did on board call days. Zuri pulled her cardigan forward by habit, hand hiding the knot. She shifted her stance to keep Maya out of his direct view. Adrian stepped into the kitchen and didn't speak for a beat. He scanned the pot, the counters, the spotless floor. His gaze lingered on the app tablet docked by the fridge. He tapped the screen. The dashboard popped up, green checks, upward arrows. "Her intake is up," he said. "Yes," Zuri answered. "And naps," he added. "Also up." "Explain the change," he said, tone neutral. "Consistency," Zuri said. "Predictable rhythm. We build on wins." Adrian's eyes flicked to Maya's hand where it poked from behind Zuri's shoulder. He couldn't see the wrap, only tiny fingers and a calm baby. He nodded once, not satisfied. "Bring her to the office after dinner," he said. "I'd like to try the bedtime routine myself." "Yes, sir." He left without another word. Zuri exhaled slowly. The spoon clinked again. She adjusted her hips to keep Maya high and snug. The baby made a small content sound and went back to studying steam. After dinner, Zuri handed Maya over in the office. Adrian held his daughter exactly like the manual prescribed. Upright. Neutral sway. 2 fingers under the chin. He kept his face gentle and steady. The baby stiffened but didn't cry. Progress, but thin. "Talk to her," Zuri said, staying at the door. Simple words. Soft voice. Adrian glanced back. "About what?" "Anything true," Zuri said. "Tell her you see her. That she's safe." He tried, awkward at first. "You're safe, he said. You're okay. He cleared his throat. I'm here. Maya's jaw unclenched. The fight drained out of her shoulders. Her eyes tracked his mouth. She didn't reach for him, but she didn't push away either. When Zuri took her back, the baby melted against her chest with that shuddering exhale Zuri had come to expect. She watched Adrian register the difference and looked down quickly so he wouldn't read her face. In the hallway, Mrs. Lang murmured, "You're walking a wire." "I know," Zuri said. "I won't let her fall." The next morning, the PI showed up early. Zuri saw him through the foyer camera feed on the tablet while warming a bottle. Middle-aged, tidy, a man who blended in. He was in Adrian's office for 20 minutes. He left without a glance at the nursery. Mrs. Lang passed Zuri in the hall and muttered, "He's checking everyone." "Let him," Zuri said. "I'm clean." She wrapped Maya high, slipped on the cardigan, and headed outside for sunlight laps on the terrace where cameras didn't reach. The air tasted like rain. The baby watched gulls and blinked slow. Zuri counted 10 deep breaths for both of them and whispered the same phrase she always used in the quiet, "I've got you." Thursday, they hit Dr. Patel's scale. The number jumped half a pound. Patel smiled for the first time since he'd met Maya. "That's significant," he said. "Sleep." "Consolidating," Zuri said. 2 naps above 90 minutes yesterday. Less startle. More self-soothing. Patel jotted notes. "Keep doing whatever you're doing." Zuri held his gaze. "If whatever upsets Mr. Cole, I'll back you on outcomes," Dr. Patel said. "Medicine respects what works." Back at the mansion, Adrian stopped them in the foyer. "The clinic called me," he said. "They logged a weight jump." "Yes," Zuri said. He studied Maya's face. The baby looked back, calm, curious. "Why won't she look at me like that?" he asked, more to himself than to Zuri. "She will," Zuri said, "if you keep showing up and not quitting." "Is that what you're doing?" he asked. "Showing up." "Every minute," Zuri said. That night, Maya woke at 1:10 a.m., whimpered twice, and went back to sleep on her own. Zuri watched the monitor and smiled in the dark. She didn't check her phone, but messages were waiting. Malik, aced circuits exam. Aunt Clara, treatment day went smooth. Proud of you. In the morning, Adrian hovered at the nursery door while Zuri ran the first feed. "I want detailed narrative reports," he said. "Not just numbers. What you do word for word." Zuri met his eyes. "Some things don't fit in a report." "They do if I'm paying for them," he said. Zuri lifted Maya to burp, patted gently, waited for the small bubble to rise. "I'm paying too," she said. "In hours." He opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked at his daughter again. She looked back and didn't flinch. Progress was obvious. The method was not. The house could feel the difference, even if the cameras couldn't see it. Zuri tightened the cardigan, checked the knot by touch, and kept moving. "Come on, kid," she whispered into Maya's hair. "We just keep stacking good days." The baby sighed and settled. The app pinged another green check. Outside, the water kept its pace. Inside, suspicion started to gather like rain. Adrian Cole's office looked more like a courtroom than a workspace. Dark wood, glass wall facing the sound, leather chairs that made visitors sit low. Zuri stood by the door, Maya snugged under her cardigan, while Adrian scrolled through the tablet with the tracking app. He didn't look up. "These numbers. Wait, naps, into. They're impressive." His voice was flat. "But it doesn't add up." "I log everything," Zuri said evenly. "You can check the timestamps yourself." "I did." He finally looked up. 7 trained professionals followed the same binder. They failed. 2 months of community center work and some diner shifts on your resume, and suddenly my daughter's thriving? Explain. Zuri kept her face calm. "Maybe patience. Maybe consistency." Adrian leaned back, eyes narrowing. "Patience. 7 professionals lacked patience? That's your theory?" Maya stirred under the wrap. Zuri shifted slightly, rocking with her hips. Adrian's eyes flicked to the movement. His jaw tightened. "Take her out," he said sharply. "She's sleeping," Zuri replied. If I move her now. Out, Adrian repeated. His tone allowed no discussion. Zuri swallowed, loosened the knot, and placed Maya in the crib. The baby whimpered, eyes fluttering open. Adrian folded his arms, watching. Within seconds, the whimper swelled into a thin wail, then a full-throated scream. Adrian didn't move. Comfort her. By the book. Zuri picked Maya up in the prescribed upright hold, neutral sway. The screams only grew. Adrian's lips pressed thin. You see, Zuri said over the noise. It's not about the manual. It's about. Stop, Adrian cut her off. He stepped forward, took Maya into his own arms, repeated the exact hold. The baby arched away, face red, fists flailing. Adrian's expression cracked for the first time. Not anger. Frustration. Defeat. He passed Maya back quickly. The moment the baby touched Zuri's chest, her cries broke into sobs, then hiccups, then silence. She pressed her cheek into the wrap fabric, breath shuddering but steadying. Adrian stared. Why only with you? Because she trusts me, Zuri said quietly. Trust doesn't fit in a binder. His eyes hardened. Or because you're hiding something. That evening, Zuri overheard Mrs. Lang in the kitchen. He hired a private investigator. Once your pass double-checked. Zuri kept chopping carrots. Let him. I have nothing to hide. Mrs. Lang lowered her voice. Be careful. He doesn't handle mystery well. Success without explanation looks like defiance to him. 2 days later, Adrian called her into the boardroom-sized dining hall. Maya was with Mrs. Lang. Adrian slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside, printouts. Surveillance stills. Screenshots from the nursery cameras. Every feed, every nap, every diaper. Perfect logs. Perfect outcomes. Too perfect. His eyes drilled into her. What are you doing off camera? Zuri met his gaze. Working. Caring. Same as on camera. He tapped the photos. Then why do I never see it work for me? Why does she look at you like you're her world and look at me like a stranger? The question hung raw for a moment. Zuri almost softened. Almost. But then his tone sharpened again. Until I know exactly how you're achieving this, you'll file detailed narrative reports. Word for word, step by step. He slid a tablet across the table. A custom app, blank fields waiting. Zuri took it. Her hands didn't shake. Yes, sir. But inside, she felt the noose tighten. How do you report the warmth of a heartbeat? How do you log a sigh of relief against cloth older than you? That night, Zuri called Malik. His face filled the screen, textbook stacked behind him. He's pushing harder, she said. More cameras, more reports. He doesn't believe the results. Of course he doesn't, Malik said. Men like that don't trust what they can't control. What if he finds out? Malik leaned in, voice firm. Then you stand tall. You're not wrong. Remember that. The next morning, Adrian tried again. He held Maya in the nursery, whispering the words Zuri had suggested, you're safe. The baby screamed harder. When Zuri took her back, Maya quieted in seconds. Adrian looked at them both, eyes cold but wounded. I'll figure out what you're doing, he said. Zuri adjusted the wrap under her cardigan, kissed the baby's head, and whispered so low only Maya could hear, not if I can help it. In the distance, thunder rolled over the sound. Inside, suspicion thickened, and the storm was only beginning. The board meeting had dragged on for 6 brutal hours. Adrian Cole stormed into his mansion at 4 in the afternoon, tie yanked loose, jaw locked. His phone buzzed with angry investor messages, but he silenced it. He needed control. Somewhere. Anywhere. From the hall, the sound of humming reached him. So, steady. It cut through the static in his head. For a moment, his shoulders eased. Maybe at home, things still obeyed his rules. He stepped into the kitchen, and froze. Zuri stood at the stove, stirring a pot, cardigan slipping off one shoulder. On her back, snug against bright blue and gold fabric, Maya slept. One tiny hand clutched the edge of the wrap. Her mouth was slack with peace. Adrian's voice exploded. What the hell is this? The spoon clattered against the pot. Zuri turned slowly. Mr. Cole. Primitive. The word dripped with disgust. You strapped my daughter to your back like luggage. She's calm, Zuri said steady. She's eaten. She's sleeping. Look at her. I see my child treated like cargo. He stepped closer, face flushed. My wife built protocols from research, from science. And you, what? Decided your tribal fabric was superior. Zuri's chin lifted. This rap has carried 3 generations in my family. It's safe. It works. Adrian's voice rose. This is America. We don't gamble with babies like this. Gamble? Zuri's hands trembled, but her tone stayed calm. She's thriving for the first time. You can't deny it. You're done here. His hand shook as he jabbed a finger toward the door. Pack your things. Now. Maya stirred at the roar, whimpered. Adrian lunged to untie the knot. The baby's whimper sharpened into a cry. Please, don't rip her out while she's sleeping, Zuri tried. But Adrian yanked. The wrap loosened. Maya's arms flailed. The cry broke into a scream, raw and jagged. Adrian cradled her in the manual's upright hold, 2 fingers under the chin, neutral sway. He forced his voice steady. It's okay, Maya. Daddy's here. The baby shrieked louder, back arching away. Her face turned red, fists pounding his chest. Mrs. Lang appeared in the doorway, grocery bag in hand, eyes wide at the scene. Sir. Stay out of this, Adrian snapped. His own voice cracked. Maya screamed until her breath hitched. Adrian tried rocking, tried the words. Nothing worked. Zuri stood with her head high, tears stinging but unshed. I'll gather my things. She brushed past him, steps even though her chest burned. Maya's wails followed her up the stairs, each one a blade. In the guest room, Zuri folded clothes into her battered suitcase. She laid the wrap on top, hands pausing, then folded it carefully. It smelled faintly of baby skin and broth. She pressed it once to her chest, then closed the case. Downstairs, Adrian still paced with his screaming daughter. Mrs. Lang stood stiff, arms crossed, face pale. Zuri walked through the hall, suitcase rolling, shoulders squared. She didn't look back. The door closed behind her with a final click. And Maya's cries rose higher, echoing through the marble halls like an accusation. The first night without Zuri was a descent into hell. Maya screamed until her tiny voice cracked. Adrian followed the binder like it was holy law. Feed every 4 hours, upright hold, neutral sway. Nothing worked. She arched away from every bottle, refused every pacifier, stiffened in his arms as though he were a stranger. By 3 a.m., Adrian's shirt was soaked with spit-up. His hair clung to his forehead. He sat in the nursery chair, Maya wailing in his arms, eyes bloodshot. Please, he muttered. Just eat. Please. She didn't. By morning, Mrs. Lang found him slumped, still in his work slacks, the binder open on his lap. Maya's screams had weakened into hoarse sobs. She won't eat, Adrian rasped. She won't sleep. What did that woman do to her? Mrs. Lang's voice was steel. She loved her. Something you might try. Adrian shot her a look, but the words stuck. Day 2 was worse. Maya screamed until her lips turned purple with effort. She slept in broken minutes, only to jolt awake. The mansion's silence made the cries sharper, bouncing off glass and marble. Adrian canceled meetings for the first time in 5 years. His phone buzzed nonstop, investors, lawyers, board members. The discrimination lawsuit was bleeding his company's stock price. He silenced call after call, pacing with Maya in his arms, sweat damp on his collar. Come on, baby girl, he whispered hoarsely. Daddy's here. He tried rocking faster, then slower. He tried reading Sarah's notes aloud. Nap at 10 sharp. Bottle at 2. Developmental play at. The words dissolved under Maya's screams. At dinner, Mrs. Lang set a plate in front of him. He pushed it away untouched. This is your fault, she snapped finally, her patience gone. You fired the one person who helped that child. She was endangering her. Primitive, you called it, Mrs. Lang cut him off, voice trembling with anger. Well, which is more civilized, your manuals, or a baby who actually eats and sleeps? Adrian had no answer. Day 3, Adrian's board threatened an emergency vote. His lead engineer resigned. Headlines about Whitfield Technologies filled the business news. Toxic culture lawsuit expands. His empire crumbled while his daughter screamed like her world was ending. That evening, Mrs. Lang tried again to feed Maya. The baby thrashed, milk spilling down her chin. Adrian dropped his head into his hands. "She hates me," he whispered. "She doesn't hate you," Mrs. Lang said softly. "She doesn't know you." Day 4, Dr. Patel arrived for an emergency check. Maya's weight had dropped nearly a pound. Dark circles shadowed her tiny eyes. "This is failure to thrive," Dr. Patel said grimly. "I've seen it before, but rarely this severe, this fast. If she loses more, hospitalization is next." Adrian felt the floor tilt. What changed? Dr. Patel looked at him steadily. "You tell me." Adrian couldn't bring himself to answer. He knew. That night, alone in his office, the house vibrating with Maya's cries upstairs, Adrian opened his laptop. His hands shook as he typed, "African baby wearing." The search results hit like blows. Peer-reviewed studies from Harvard. Recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Articles on attachment theory. Lines of text that mocked his arrogance. Constant physical contact regulates infant stress. Carried babies eat and sleep better. Traditional methods support secure attachment. The primitive method he'd spat on was backed by more science than Sarah's entire binder. Adrian leaned back, staring at the ceiling, Maya's screams bleeding through the walls. His throat closed. He had destroyed his daughter's one chance at peace because of his pride. Because of his ignorance. Adrian barely recognized the man in the mirror. His tie was gone, shirt wrinkled, eyes bloodshot from nights without sleep. Maya's cries echoed through the house like punishment, rattling every inch of glass and steel. At 2 a.m., he sat at his desk, laptop open, research tabs stacked. He scrolled until his eyes blurred. Infant carrying reduces cortisol levels. Baby wearing promotes secure attachment. Used for millennia, confirmed by modern science. Every article said the same thing. What Zuri had done was not dangerous, not primitive. It was healing. It was science. Adrian rubbed his face with both hands. His wife's binder sat open on the desk, neat pages filled with charts and routines. Sarah had poured herself into those notes, desperate to control what she feared. He'd clung to them like scripture. And in doing so, he'd blinded himself. Upstairs, Maya screamed again, voice hoarse. Adrian pushed back his chair, but Mrs. Lang appeared in the doorway. "Stay," she said. "You'll only make it worse right now." Her bluntness cut deep. He slumped into his chair, guilt pressing down heavier than exhaustion. "What did I do?" he whispered. "You fired the only person that baby trusted," Mrs. Lang said, not unkindly. "And you called her culture savage while she was saving your daughter." Adrian couldn't argue. The next morning, a thick envelope landed on his desk. The private investigator's report. Adrian opened it with trembling hands. Page after page, verification of Zuri's work at the Children's Center. Testimonials from parents. Letters of recommendation. Words like nurturing, gifted, intuitive with children who've experienced trauma. One line stopped him cold. Zuri Bennett has a remarkable ability to help struggling children feel safe and loved. She seems to understand instinctively what each child needs to heal. Adrian closed the file, chest tight. That was exactly what he had seen with his own eyes, and what he had destroyed. By day 5, Maya's condition scared him. She barely ate, screamed herself hoarse, and her small body had grown limp with exhaustion. Dr. Patel's words rang in his ears. Hospitalization is next. Adrian sat on the nursery floor, binder open, bottle untouched. Maya lay in the crib, whimpering, not even strong enough to fight. He reached a hand through the bars. She didn't reach back. "Baby girl," he whispered, voice cracking. "I don't know how to fix this." The silence that followed was worse than the cries. That evening, Adrian drove to the shabby motel near the airport. He sat in the car for 20 minutes, rehearsing words that refused to come. When he finally found the courage, he dialed the number on the front desk slip. The phone rang. Clicked. Hello. Zuri's voice. Tired word. Zuri. It's Adrian Cole. He swallowed. I need to apologize. Silence stretched. His chest burned. She won't stop crying, he blurted. She won't eat. The doctors are talking about hospitalization. I was wrong about everything. Please. My daughter needs you. On the other end, Zuri said nothing for a long moment. Adrian heard his own shaky breath. Finally, her voice came, low and steady. If I come back, she said, it will be on my terms. The motel hallway smelled of bleach and cigarette smoke. Adrian Cole stood outside room 214, his suit wrinkled, tie gone, eyes hollow from 5 nights without sleep. He raised his hand, knocked once, then again, softer. The door opened a crack. Zuri looked out, cardigan pulled tight. Her eyes were red-rimmed but sharp. You look like hell, she said flatly. I am, Adrian admitted. And so is Maya. Zuri's grip on the door didn't loosen. Why are you here? I need you, he said. Then corrected himself. She needs you. Silence stretched. Finally, Zuri opened the door fully and let him in. The room was small, a single bed, suitcase at the foot, wrap folded neatly on top. Adrian's throat tightened at the sight. She hasn't eaten properly in 5 days, he said. She's lost weight. The doctor says. His voice cracked. He says failure to thrive. I can't do this alone. Zuri folded her arms. Mr. Cole, you didn't just fire me. You humiliated me. You insulted my culture. You called what I did for your daughter primitive. I was wrong, Adrian said quickly, desperately. I didn't understand. No, Zuri said, voice rising. You didn't want to understand. You saw something different, and you labeled it dangerous. That ignorance nearly cost your daughter everything. Adrian bowed his head. I know. I'll make it right. Whatever it takes. Zuri's eyes held his. Then she spoke, calm but firm. If I come back, there are conditions. Anything, Adrian said without hesitation. First, Zuri said, you will never again call my cultural traditions primitive or savage. What I practice comes from generations of women raising strong, healthy children. It deserves respect. Adrian swallowed. You have my word. Second, she continued, you will apologize formally. Not just to me but to my family. You disrespected them too. Adrian's voice was hoarse. I'll call them myself. I'll tell them I was wrong. And third, Zuri said, stepping closer, her voice steel, if I'm going to heal Maya, you're going to learn why it works. No more blind rules. No more pretending science and tradition can't exist together. You'll study it with me. You'll do it with me. Adrian didn't hesitate. Just, whatever you ask. I'll learn. Zuri studied him, searching for cracks. She saw a man stripped of arrogance, worn down by grief and failure, desperate for his child. Slowly, she nodded. I'll come back, she said. But understand this, Mr. Cole, this time, I'm not your employee. I'm your partner in saving Maya. Adrian's shoulders sagged in relief. Partner, he repeated. Yes. The next morning, Zuri walked back through the mansion's front doors, suitcase in hand. Mrs. Lang stood waiting, eyes widening with surprise, then softening with relief. Thank God, Mrs. Lang murmured. She hasn't stopped crying since you left. Upstairs, the sound of Maya's whimpers guided them to the nursery. The baby lay in her crib, face pale, too tired even to scream. Zuri's chest clenched. She dropped her bag, pulled out the wrap, and in one practiced motion secured Maya against her chest. The baby's tiny hands clenched once, then relaxed. Within minutes, the whimper eased into a soft, shuddering sigh. Her eyelids drooped. Adrian stood in the doorway, watching with a mixture of awe and shame. It's instant. It's attachment, Zuri said simply. What she's been starving for. Adrian stepped closer, voice breaking. Teach me. Zuri nodded, tightening the wrap as Maya drifted off. I will. But you're starting from scratch. That night, For the first time in nearly a week, the mansion was quiet. Maya slept soundly against Zuri's chest. Adrian sat across from them, binder closed on the table, staring at the fabric that had saved his daughter. "This," he said quietly, "is what real science looks like. Proof I was blind." Zuri met his eyes. "Then let's open them. Together." Adrian Cole approached the nursery the next morning like a man walking into trial. He wore no suit, no armor. Just a plain shirt, sleeves rolled, hands empty. Zuri waited with Maya in the wrap, standing in the center of the room. "You ready?" she asked. He nodded, though his jaw was tight. "First lesson," Zuri said, loosening the knot. "Baby wearing isn't just fabric. It's trust. She has to feel your heartbeat, your warmth. Hold out your arms." Adrian obeyed. Zuri lifted Maya, placed her against his chest, and began wrapping the fabric around them both. Adrian's hands trembled as he tried to mimic her knots. "Pull tighter," she corrected gently. "If it feels snug, it's right. Loose feels unsafe to her." Adrian adjusted, clumsy but determined. Maya fussed at first, sensing his nerves. He whispered, "It's okay, sweetheart. Daddy's here." The words cracked, but he kept going. Zuri guided his hands, tightened the last fold, and stepped back. Maya shifted, pressed her face against his chest, and gave a long exhale. Adrian froze. He looked down, stunned, at the small body melting against him. "She's calm. Because you're close," Zuri said. "That's all she needed from you. Not manuals. Not equipment. Just you." Adrian's throat tightened. He swayed slightly, letting Maya adjust to the rhythm. Zuri smiled faintly. "You're getting it." Over the next week, the house changed. Adrian sat through feeding sessions, learning how to hold the bottle while Maya stayed wrapped. He rocked her to sleep in the evenings, humming awkwardly at first until Zuri taught him the lullabies she grew up with. By day 10, Maya reached for him willingly. By day 12, she laughed in his arms. By day 14, she fell asleep against his chest without Zuri in sight. The binder sat untouched on the bookshelf. Dust gathered on its edges. One night, Adrian sat in the nursery chair, Maya strapped to him, while Zuri folded laundry. "You've done more for her in 2 months than I managed in 8, he said quietly. "I thought money could fix anything. But money can't buy this." Zuri folded a blanket with steady hands. "Love isn't a product, Mr. Cole. It's practice." Adrian looked at her, the weight of humility in his eyes. "Teach me to keep practicing." At the same time, his company reeled. The discrimination lawsuit dominated headlines. Investors threatened to pull out. Adrian walked into board meetings carrying a new perspective. "This company failed because I failed," he told the directors. "I built walls instead of doors. I dismissed perspectives I didn't understand. That ends today." He announced the hiring of a cultural integration consultant, Zuri. At first, the board bristled. "She's not an executive. Not an MBA. She's a nanny," one director scoffed. Adrian's voice cut through the room. "She saved my daughter when experts failed. If she can fix what I broke at home, she can help fix what I broke here." Zuri stood before the board, calm but firm. "Diversity isn't decoration. It's strength. If someone succeeds differently than you expect, the problem isn't them. It's your assumptions." The room fell silent. One by one, heads nodded. Whitfield Technologies began changing. Hiring practices opened. Teams diversified. Innovation ticked up. Press stories shifted from scandal to reform. Investors who had been ready to flee returned, citing authentic leadership pivot. Adrian saw it clearly. Zuri's lessons worked in boardrooms as much as nurseries. Trust, attachment, respect. At home, transformation was even louder. Maya's weight climbed past healthy marks. Her giggles filled the halls that once echoed with screams. At bedtime, she reached for both Zuri and Adrian. One evening, Dr. Patel arrived for a checkup. He watched Maya crawl confidently across the floor, babbling. He reviewed the charts, then looked at them both. "This turnaround is remarkable," he said. "I've never seen such progress. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." Zuri smiled softly. It's simple. We stopped following a binder and started following her. Dr. Patel chuckled. Best medical advice I've heard all year. That night, after Maya drifted to sleep in her wrap, Adrian joined Zuri on the terrace. The sound stretched dark and endless. For once, he looked smaller than his empire. You've saved more than my daughter, he said quietly. You saved me from myself. And you saved my company. Zuri shook her head. I just showed you what was already true. You chose to listen. Adrian turned to her, sincerity raw in his eyes. Then let me keep listening. For the first time since she'd stepped into this house, Zuri believed he meant it. By the end of the month, the mansion felt alive. No sterile silence. No icy rules. Just laughter, footsteps, lullabies. Maya thrived. Aunt Clara's treatments were funded. Malik received a paid internship, earned on his own merits, but supported by Adrian's belief in his talent. The transformation wasn't finished. But it had begun. And for the first time, it felt unshakable. Spring sunlight spilled across the terrace. The mansion, once a fortress of glass and steel, now felt like a home. Toys dotted the living room. The smell of cooking drifted from the kitchen. And in the nursery, Maya babbled as she tugged at the bright blue and gold wrap that had saved her life. Zuri tied the knot firmly, then lifted Maya onto her back. The little girl squealed with delight, her hands patting the cloth. Adrian watched from the doorway, suit jacket slung over one arm, a smile softening the lines of his face. She loves that wrap more than any toy, he said. She loves the feeling of being close, Zuri replied. That's what she was missing. Adrian stepped closer, brushed Maya's curls with his fingers. And I was too blind to see it. Maya twisted to look at him, then reached for his face. Adrian leaned in, and she pressed her tiny hand to his cheek. He closed his eyes, letting the warmth sink in. Daddy, Maya babbled. The word hit him like a blow and a blessing all at once. Adrian's throat tightened. He looked at Zuri. First time she said it. Zuri smiled. Because she finally knows you. That evening, the house was full. Aunt Clara sat at the long dining table, scarf tied loosely, color back in her cheeks. Malik clinked glasses with Adrian, excitement buzzing as he talked about his engineering projects. Mrs. Lang actually laughed when Maya tried to feed her peas. Adrian raised his glass. To family, by blood, by choice, by love. They toasted. For the first time in years, the mansion rang with voices, not silence. Weeks later, Adrian stood before his board, Zuri at his side. The press crowded the room. Headlines had shifted. The scandal was fading, replaced with curiosity. This company, Adrian said, almost collapsed because I ignored voices that didn't sound like mine. I disrespected perspectives I didn't understand. But change is here. Diversity isn't a slogan, it's survival. He turned to Zuri. Ms. Bennett will lead our new cultural integration initiative. Her insight has already saved my family. Now it will help save this company. Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled. Zuri stood tall, calm under the lights. Different doesn't mean wrong, she said simply. It means stronger together. The applause was real, not polite. Months passed. The company rebounded. Adrian split his time between boardrooms and bedtime stories. Zuri balanced her role at Whitfield Technologies with her role at home. Aunt Clara's health improved under steady treatment. Malik prepared for graduation, already with a job offer waiting. But the biggest change was Maya. She crawled, then walked, then ran across polished floors that once echoed only with screams. Her laugh filled every room. She reached for both Adrian and Zuri with equal joy, secure in the love that surrounded her. One night, as twilight painted the sound, Adrian knelt in the garden. The same garden Sarah had once planned but never planted. Now it bloomed with roses and marigolds, lilies and hibiscus. He held out a small velvet box. Inside, a ring of gold etched with the same patterns woven into Zuri's wrap. Marry me, Adrian said, voice steady. Not because I'm lost without you. Because with you, I finally see. Zuri's breath caught. She looked at Maya chasing fireflies on the lawn, then back at Adrian. Slowly, she nodded. Yes. He slipped the ring on her finger. For the first time in years, Adrian felt whole. The wedding was simple, held in the garden under strings of lights. Aunt Clara walked down the aisle with Maya in her arms, wrapped in blue and gold. Malik stood beside Adrian as best man. Mrs. Lang dabbed her eyes in secret. When Zuri and Adrian said their vows, it wasn't about wealth or power. It was about respect, about listening, about carrying each other close, the way Zuri had carried Maya. Years later, the Whitfield Bennett Foundation opened its first center for family support and inclusive childcare. On the wall hung a framed piece of fabric, the original wrap. Beneath it, a plate. Sometimes the strongest science is the oldest wisdom. Sometimes love is the only protocol that matters. Children ran through the halls, laughing. Families found help, found hope. And in the corner, Maya, now confident and bright-eyed, tugged at her little brother's sleeve, teaching him how to tie a doll into a tiny wrap. Adrian stood with Zuri, watching. He slipped an arm around her shoulders. Wealth isn't what fills this house anymore, he said. It's love. Zuri leaned against him, eyes warm. And love lasts. The garden lights glowed. The mansion breathed. And for the first time, Adrian Cole's world felt not just powerful, but truly rich. If this story moved you, don't just scroll away. Hit the like button right now to show your support. Tell us in the comments what lesson stood out to you most. We read every single one. And make sure you subscribe with the bell turned on, so you won't miss tomorrow's incredible story. Share this video with a friend or family member who needs to hear it, because sometimes love and respect are the most powerful truths of all.